Hello, BookTube. We are back to my library tour, my doomed, pointless library tour of my little book room, where I am trying to create a visual record of books that are moving around behind my back the minute I turn the camera off. But you seem to like it, so we are not done with this bookcase by a long shot, so we'll just continue here. This first one is a great big thing, the complete Pelican Shakespeare in the floppy trade paperback with the usual inserts that I put in. I have a number of different collected Shakespeares in this room. I guess you could sort of say I'm a fan of collected Shakespeares. I like to see what the different feel of each of them is, what it feels like to read through each of them, what it feels like, what the critical apparatus is, for instance, or in the case of, for instance, that white collected Shakespeare over my shoulder, no critical apparatus. Collected Shakespeares have been done millions of times, so it's fun to see. It's fun to look at them. Let's see here. All right, so this next one is Eileen Simpson. This is her memoir, Poets in Their Youth. She knew a whole bunch of iconic 20th century American poets. Knew them personally, was married to one of them, and wrote a memoir about that, collected a lot of their correspondence, and it's very, very good. I might not think the most of some of the poets that she lionizes, but she doesn't just lionize them. She gives them very human dimensions. It's a really good portrait. Then we have, this is by Traps Bryant. This is his book, Dog Days at the White House. He was the White House dog keeper, sort of an unofficial and then official and then unofficial again position where he would look after the dogs when they couldn't look at when their owners couldn't look after them. That cover is a composite of that's the lawn of the White House, the way it used to look. I think it's a parking lot now with gold all over the place. But superimposed on that is a picture of President Johnson with one of his Beagles. I imagine that picture is in here somewhere. It's one of the most famous presidential dog pictures of them all, so I can't help but think that it gets its whole page in here. President Johnson was Bryant's president in a lot of ways. You go to Washington to serve a whole bunch of people, but you end up with one president. That's always the case even when you serve in multiple administrations. There's always somebody. Yeah, there we go. That's the actual picture of Johnson's Beagles going nuts to see him. And this is just that. It's just a collection of anecdotes of dogs at the White House. Pretty much a quintessential Steve book. Then we have a gigantic, who did this? F.H. Pritchard. This is a gigantic anthology of essays from like 80 years ago. When did this come out? Halcyon House, good Lord. 1939. Yeah, so about 80 years ago. And it's got all sorts of things in here that have been anthologized endless times since this thing came out, but also all sorts of people that aren't anthologized anymore, that were big names then. This is a special hardcover edition with sprayed edges of Anno Dracula by Kim Newman. Found this when I was out used book shopping with David Murphy. The book we've already seen, right? In an earlier shelf. Yeah, right here. We saw the trade paperback. But I love this. I love all the books in the series, but I love this one most of all. It's just so good. It's just so good. It's good as a vampire novel. It's really good as a Dracula novel, even though he barely appears. And it's also great as historical fiction. And it plays around with all the characters from fiction, from Victorian fiction that I love so much. So it pretty much checks all the boxes for me. So I was happy to have a hardcover of it. All right. This is David Goldblatt's book, The Ball is Round, The Global History of Soccer. Very, very on point for Summer of Sport, which is about to start in just a week. This is just what it says, but I didn't think that I would like it, and I love it. I think it's a testament to Goldblatt's talent as a writer. It must be. I mean, what else could it be? It's got to be that, because I'm not all that interested in what only the United States calls soccer. You have to call it this in order to sell the book. The rest of the world calls it football. We have our own sport called football in the United States that's mostly about injecting huge amounts of steroids into gigantic slabs of beef and slamming them together at full speed. What the rest of the world calls this sport football, and I didn't think that I would be interested in reading about the sport any more than I am in watching it. but no, it turns out Goldblatt made a great book out of it. What's next here? This is Van Whitebrooks. This is his The World of Washington Irving. It's about the very beginning births of the professional world of American letters, but it's also in large part about Washington Irving, which is fine by me since I love Washington Irving. So I know that it's a little outdated to say it nowadays, but I like the way this author writes. I really do. So he did half a dozen studies of American literature that were intended to be cinematic. They were intended to be panoramic, and some of them are. New England Indian Summer is the most famous one. I'm pretty sure we've already seen that on this tour. I'm pretty sure this is not the only volume of his that's in this room. But he just went on doing it. He did, like I said, half a dozen books like that. I think they're all wonderful. They're extremely detailed and elusive, though, ALL. So, and he doesn't always follow that up. Once upon a time, 50 years ago, I said, well, surely there will come an annotated Van Whitebrooks, at least an annotated New England Indian Summer. But instead, he's just gone out of print. He's not stuck around and needed an annotated edition. He's just no one reads them anymore. Okay, then we have A Concession to the Dude Bros. This is a UK trade paperback of Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, the all-purpose intellect who has a unifying field theory of everything and is a guru who will teach you how to be a man if you will pay him. Unfortunately, this is the path for pseudo-intellectual grifters in the 21st century, and he is well on his way on that path. But this book was written before he knew that path existed. I would argue this book was written before that path did exist. So this was written before he knew that he could grift gullible baby fascists men into a life path or whatnot, or as if there is such a thing as a life path, until he knew that he could become an internet guru. This was written long before he knew that job was available, and that much less how much it paid. And it's a brief history of humankind. Harari is not an expert in any of the subjects that he touches on in this book, but it is fairly interestingly written. It has some interesting ideas. They are nestled cheek by jowl with books with ideas that, to put it mildly, aren't interesting. But what have we got here? Oh, all right. Right. Well, we had the Brothers Harper in the last one. Now we've got Gentlemen, Scholars, and Scoundrels. This is an anthology of Harper's stuff with cartoons on the back there, and I think there are cartoons scattered throughout the book. Oh no. So I assume you were printed when paper was at a premium. Yes. Yeah, the early 1940s. So all the cartoons are relegated to the dust jacket. But this has excerpts from Harpers Magazine, which is celebrating currently this year its 175th year of continuous publication, and which had the greatest names in literature wrote for it. Not going to scream over the sign, so hold on. The greatest names in literature, in poetry, in humor, wrote for Harper's for a century. So this anthology, I mean, you've already seen, if you're following along here on this library tour, you already know how much I love anthologies, and this is a perfect example of this thing. Let's see here. Okay. This is the Granta Book of American Short Stories, another anthology. Big, thick thing with Richard Ford's name on the cover. I've never been able to trace down whether or not he had anything to do with this. I think he writes the introduction. Yeah, this is volume 2. The original, the hardcover, was enormous. This is an update of an earlier Granta Book of American Short Stories. And there are really good choices in here. I really, really enjoy reading through this. Haven't found I don't know if the trade paperback of volume 1 looks like this. I assume they do. I assume that they're just meant to be a pair. I've just never found it. The Brattle will provide. Okay, then we have a trade paperback of Thomas Bulfinch's Mythology. I have this as a Modern Library hardcover, an Everyman Library hardcover, but I wanted this because it's full of illustrations. This trade paperback was, for a long time, the only version of Bulfinch that you could get in bookstores. And I used to sell it like crazy to customers. And I used to sell it in part by saying, well, you've got Bulfinch's prose, which is wonderful and rolling, and definitely another century. But you've also got all this artwork. It's true, it's in black and white, but it's amazingly collected for you to show you how often a subject classical mythology was for great writers, or great artists and great sculptors. So when I had never had a copy of this. I always had I have the Modern Library hardcover, and I also have a neat little, or not little, it's big. It's a big, also illustrated, but not like this. I have 2 editions of this book. But then when did I see this? A few years ago. I found this trade paperback just really cheap. I think it was $1. And it brought back memories of when I was working in the bookstore, and this was the thing that I sold. This was the Bullfinch that I sold. So I figured grab it and put it here in this little book room. Okay, then we have a graphic novel, Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross. This is a story of the iconic DC superheroes, the real superheroes, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, only years later, when they've all left, basically retired from superheroing, because the world has grown violent and nihilistic. Superpowered gangs of punks run wild in the streets. They don't know whether they stand for good or evil. They don't really care. And finally, Superman has had enough of that and comes out of retirement in order to change things, in order to sternly tell these superpowered beings that fun time is over and that they will now behave themselves. He's got gray at the temples, and it's a great story. One of the great comic book stories that Mark Waid wrote. Then, what is this next one? All right, this is Kurt Busiek, and again, artwork by Alex Ross. This is another great graphic novel, Marvels. And this is the idea of the fake superheroes, the Freudian superheroes, the Marvel superheroes. Only this is the idea that Busiek had, that if you take Marvel Comics on their word, that they are the world outside your window and that they pride themselves on verisimilitude and continuity, then it would be possible for one person to live through the heyday of Marvel superheroes. They appeared in the World War II era with Captain America, the original Human Torch, and the Submariner. And if you were a young man then, as our main character is in this book, you could just grow up in a world of superheroes. They would change over time. All the comic book events would happen. Galactus would threaten the Earth. Mutants would sweep over. Mutant mania would sweep over the country. And that's what this is. That's what this graphic novel does. It's just wonderful. It takes all the iconic moments of Marvel Comics. The Fantastic Four, the formation of the Avengers, the monster craze, the Hulk, etc., and puts them from the view of an ordinary man on the street. It's just great, just fantastic. Let's see, I have to reach down, so I can't really see what I'm getting at. Oh, all right. This is the great Mary McCarthy, the great and unfortunately forgotten Mary McCarthy. These are her writings on Watergate, the Watergate scandal. It's a thin collection of things that I found, again, just recently. I found this just last year. But I know pretty much immediately if a book that I found is coming into this little room. I know that pretty much immediately. It isn't always just a question of, am I going to use this over years and then I will know. Sometimes I know right away. And I knew this right away. And I remember these pieces. They glow with seething, suppressed anger because of Watergate, because of what President Nixon did to this country. Mary McCarthy didn't live to see what all of us said at the time was impossible, which is something an order of magnitude worse. We all said at the time, nothing could be worse than this. This is the depths. The presidency has hit rock bottom. We all said that at the time, and she didn't live long enough to see that was not true. To see that those of us who were, much younger than she was at the time have lived long enough to see that we were wrong. It never would have crossed Richard Nixon's mind to organize for months, in sight, and then want to lead physically an armed insurrection to overthrow the government of this country. That would never have occurred to Richard Nixon. Never in a million years. He would have condemned it. He was a horrible person and a worm and a lawbreaker, but he was an American. He was a patriot. He would have condemned it. It would have been unthinkable for anyone at the time of Watergate And not only did a sitting U.S. president do that, but when he came back to power, he pardoned all the people who smeared their feces on the walls of my capital. So we had no idea. We had no idea at all. Back when we were all fulminating against Watergate, we had no idea that it was, I won't even say an opening act. It wasn't an opening act. And then the last thing, what is the last thing here? Oh, this is the Book of the Seven Seas, Peter Freuchen. I don't know if you can make out that title. There you go. Which is, he was a famous explorer, and this is a book about nautical fare and nautical history and mankind's encounters with the seas and exploration literature and all that. It's just another great anthology that I got originally. Originally, I got this. I think there's another copy of this in this room somewhere. But originally I got this in a box. It was a slipcase, and predictably the box fell apart. I tore it apart because I go back to this all the time. So I figured, rather than wait around for another slipcase set, just don't do that anymore. Don't get slipcase editions. You're just going to tear them apart. And this is nice and solid otherwise. So I kept it. And there you go. That is another shelf of this doomed library tour. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.